Hey guys, this is David Chen. You're on another edition of Pandemics Podcast, New York Weekly's #1 podcast of 2020. And today we have my good friend here, Eric Siu, author of Leveling Up and part of levelingup.com. How you doing, buddy?
Thanks for having me, Dave.
How's everything going?
Everything's amazing, man. Every single day is amazing. Whenever I get asked that, the default answer is amazing. It's not like some cheesy response. It just that's what it is. So
I love that. That positivity and spirit is not necessarily something that we were always given as part of our cultures, per se, right? And growing up here as Asian Americans, it has definitely been a little bit more confusing at times of what culture is what. But to hear that and that positivity is also an amazing process that you're breaking the cycle and have such happiness. So that's amazing, which is why your book is doing so well. You're doing so great. Tell us a little bit about the book and what it's about.
Yeah, so the book over here, so I'm holding it for those of you that can see on camera. So it's called Leveling Up, and for me, I played a lot of games growing up, and I just see life as a game. It's a lot easier and a lot more fun when you look at it as a series of puzzles to solve. So every single day, it's like, okay, you just try to level up 1% better every single day. And, if you want to level up in your career or business or whatever, there's certain levels that you have to get through. And, to me, the game is something that never ends. You just keep playing until you die, you croak, and then game over right there. But I think for a lot of people, it's like this zero-sum game. But then I think when you look at life that way, it becomes a lot tougher. It's like, you're trying to kill someone else, right? In games, you should kill somebody else. But in real life, you learn that, hey, maybe the opposite of that is better. You should expand the pie for everyone. So it's just constant reframing, looking at life a little differently, and just trying to make it as fun as possible. Because in the grand scheme of things, we're just specks of dust, right? We're here for like a little microsecond, and then we're gone. In the grand scheme of things. So
that's amazing, man. I think conceptually that it's great to that analogy. You have to level up every single time. You finally get the boss level, and then if you don't have the infinity streak, it's over, right? It just is what it is. And so I love hearing that. What inspired you to make such a book with such an amazing analogy that's there?
Yeah, it's funny. I had this guy that's famous in the crypto world, Anthony Pompliano. So I was on his podcast, and then he was like, "Dude, why are you doing a book? Nobody reads books anymore." At least for me, I find that because I like to do a lot of different things on the computer, I can't focus. So I need a physical book, and it gets me to focus. And to me, books are some of the best deals in the world. You pay 10, 15, 20 bucks, and you get to siphon off someone's wisdom from like their entire lives. Like, that's totally worth it. And so for me, looking at it from that lens, I'm like, okay, look, there's over 3 billion people in the world that have played a game. And I think there's still a stigma tied to it. I think, our Asian parents, I don't know about you, but they would take away my keyboard. We get into these massive fights. And to me, gaming is just growing up with it. It's my version of sports, right? Like, this was me learning teamwork, camaraderie, resilience, all this stuff. Like, that was it for me. And sports, same thing. If you overtrain in sports, you can tear your ACL. In the world of gaming, if you overtrain, you can have, you can affect your mental health and your physical health. So it's like the same trade-offs and the same benefits. So I think it's just a different message reframed for all the people that have played the game to kind of look at life a little differently.
Wow, that's such an amazing story. I love the analogy. I love the process. The level of thinking is absolute fire. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing and where you grew up and kind of a little bit about your background.
Yeah, man. So I grew up in a suburb of LA called Arcadia, which is where all the Asian people are now. Yeah. So when I was growing up, it was maybe 40, 50% Asian. Now it's like 90% or so. And so for me growing up, it was, I never did well in school because I didn't care so much for it. I really excelled at games. That was like the one thing I was good at. And I almost got kicked out of high school because I didn't want to go to this one elective class, because I just thought it was stupid. And then I almost got kicked out of college my first year. I had 6 withdrawals and 1 F, I think. So I was subject to dismissal. And because I wanted to play World of Warcraft and poker. And so I just wanted to play whatever I was interested in. And my upbringing, I mean, single child. My mom was kind of the matriarch. She brought the food home. She was very, she was great. She gets things done, but she's also very controlling, right? And my dad was kind of, this guy that, he did programming for a while. And then, after 9/11, he just kind of stopped working. So it was a constant beatdown for my parents. You're not good enough. You're constantly comparing me with other people. Like, how come you can't do this? How come you can't do that? So I'm sure you feel the same way too. It's the Asian culture, right? It's a culture of beatdown. But then I learned to reframe that into, like you're going to give me the beatdown now. Maybe it's good for me long term. So give me more of the beatdown now. So instead of feeling sad about it, that's kind of, how I look at it now.
It's amazing that you had that critical thought process at that one specific moment to something negative that you're looking at, something positive. Most people can't even accelerate past that level, and you absolutely have, which is amazing. Leveling up. That's why it's a great book, right? As you did that and going through that, I don't think people really realize the difficulties and intricacies of, being Asian American, and not necessarily talking about anything that's happening now, which is all very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But how hard it really is to assimilate, and then when it's part of gaming, because that's your one way to come in, and then the parent side of it is a whole different world of it, right? Like even sports, when I play sports, I have my aunt and my uncles tell me it's completely worthless, and if it wasn't for me playing sports, I probably wouldn't be, as much of teamwork and integral as I wanted to be. How did you do all that stuff?
How did I evolve from a teamwork perspective?
Exactly.
Yeah. So when I was about 12 years old, and by the way, I'm happy to talk about kind of what's going on too, because I do get a bit, emotional when I think about that stuff, right? That's probably the only time I get emotional thinking about it, because as Asians, we're invisible, right?
Yeah.
Forget the minority, like you're not even seen, dude. You're invisible. But from a teamwork perspective, when I was 12 years old, I was playing this game called EverQuest, which was the precursor to World of Warcraft. And, this game, it's if you want to do the best things, you have to be a part of the best team. And to be a part of the best team, to kill the biggest dragons or whatever, to get the best loot, they had a recruiting process. It's no different than the real world. It's like there's tryouts, and then you have to go through this whole dog and pony show. But like you learn at that very young age, like, hey, if I want to do amazing things in the world, I got to be a part of this amazing community, and I gotta hold up my end of the bargain. I have to be a high performer if they're to bring me on. And so that carried over with me to games like Counter-Strike, Quake 2 back in the day, Quake 3, and same thing with like Warcraft clans and strategy clans and things like that. So ever since 12, I was like, yeah, I just got to be a part of the best team. And now when I look at the world of business, it's like, how do I get the best people? How do I get the best people? Like over and over and over again. It's like, we're building a high performance sports team. That's what it is.
Right. It absolutely is. It's amazing. And a lot of people don't realize how right here, right now it is, and how interactive and global it is, and what the opportunities exist. One of the things that you talk about is gaming and how you do a lot of that. Do you do that on your spare time? And can you let people know who aren't in gaming how that helps you communicate with a community of people?
Yeah, so I don't play as much games anymore. What I can say is pre-COVID, at the office here in LA, we would play Smash Brothers after work every single day.
Dope.
And this is on Smash Ultimate, so we can play up to 8 players, right? And what I noticed about it is one time they wanted to play. What 2 of my team members are like, hey, let's do 2-on-1, because they couldn't beat me 1-on-1, right? So let's do 2-on-1. And usually I would have no problem kind of winning against 2 other people on the team that are kind of inexperienced. But one guy on my team, by the way, he's one of my best guys. He's the GM for my software company. He was super strategic. He was directing traffic. He's like, no, do this. No, look, Eric's doing this right now. Do this, right? And the other guy was just kind of like listening to everything. And like, for whatever reason, I just couldn't beat them because he actually was thinking about it. So when I play games with my team members, I can see who's strategic, who isn't, who makes the same mistakes. That carries over into their work. They don't know that I actually think like this. Maybe they'll listen to this, but I'm really looking at everything that they're doing. And then I'm like, sometimes I might bring up and say, hey, by the way, the way you play like this, it's directly a reflection of how you work. So how you do anything is how you do everything.
Oh my God. I feel like I'm listening to myself talk. It's crazy. I do the same thing when I'm playing games.
Yeah.
And I look at them and I'm like, or if we'll play poker, I'll be like, this guy's a high risk taker. This one isn't. And you're just constantly analyzing, but it really is beneficial, because what people don't realize is you really do learn a lot of their habits and things they like and they don't like and what they're trying to do. Kudos to you. Talk about that. You talked a little bit about your software company. Tell us a little bit about that and things that you're doing there.
Yeah, so my software company is called ClickFlow. So I think the easiest way to look at the things that I'm doing, it's a marketing holding company. So we have a couple businesses, and I invest in other kind of MarTech software businesses. And this one is because I'm in the marketing world, known for the world of SEO and content marketing. We have a software that helps you increase your traffic. I won't get into the weeds there, but I worked in software starting at about age 25 or 26, and I just I understood by looking at what all the tech people are talking about that if you sell a software company, the multiples are very high, and then you can recruit the best people too. And I always tried to stray away from, and there's a game within this too, right? I grew up learning this internet marketing, affiliate marketing thing, but I also know that world's seen as very slimy, and it's not respectable, right? In a lot of ways. But then I started working in tech, and I'm like, oh, I can just straddle the line here. And I took kind of the best from both worlds. And then, so now we have the software company. It's doing well. And yeah, and I'm happy to talk about kind of all the other stuff we have going on, but that's the software company. We have a GM that runs that company. My whole thing is, for all the businesses that we have, it's hiring a smart GM or a CEO to run those businesses. And then I'm just off, creating content like this, or, looking for deals to do, as in investing in a company, or perhaps even buying a company.
That's amazing. When you talk about being an investor, invest in companies, what are some of the things that you look for in type of investments in businesses?
Yeah, I think if we're going to buy a company, one of the core criteria is that, or key questions I ask myself is, can we blow this up with our audiences? So, this is just sharing the numbers, not to brag or anything, but we have a podcast called Marketing School that gets 1.5 million downloads a month. The Leveling Up podcast, about 100,000 a month. And then our blog, a couple 100,000 visits a month. So we have a nice marketing audience. And so the question I ask myself is, can I blow this up with our audiences? And so that's one question. Can I help with our marketing teams too? Because we actually have an ad agency. Can I help with that? So can I make it a scenario where 1 + 1 = 5? And then another core question I ask myself, let's say I'm just investing in someone, would I work for this person? And do I think this is going to be a game-changing company in the next 10 years or so? So I'm kind of betting on the jockey in that scenario. But if it's something I'm looking to buy, maybe like a majority acquisition, then I'll have much more questions in there.
Yeah, it's amazing. A lot of people don't realize that it's really the person, individual, that you have to bet on, as well as the actual concept. And that's how things work. So it's amazing that you see that, and that it's something you offer. What is one big mistake that you see a lot of companies do when they're approaching you on an investment?
Yeah, I'll just say my mistake that I made, and maybe this will be helpful, is I think it's trying to do too much at once. So they'll come and say, hey, look, I got this, like I have 5 different ideas here and I want to do all of them. In some cases, I still think about all the new opportunities, the shiny object syndrome. And I can say that, actually in the book, I have a diagram where it talks about success. So if you think of success as a circle, and you have success on all the edges, and you start in the middle, if you go in a straight line, you're going to hit it very quickly. But if you keep going, like, you keep changing directions, like you'll never hit one of the lines. And so I think that's what holds people back, because at least for me, I wanted to be able to prove to myself that, I can do all these things. I can do all these things. And I think a lot of it comes from my childhood. I wanted to prove my parents wrong. But then you realize, like, okay, that's all from your childhood. You don't need to do that anymore. And so maybe just focus on one thing, because even the best people in the world, the Bill Gates, the Warren Buffetts, they all say that one word: focus.
Well, I love that, man. It's very rare that I get to vibe with someone, who from the same descent that understands that is from your childhood.
Yeah.
You have to break the change. And they're just doing what's best for them, right? Like they were best for us. They really didn't know any better.
Yep.
And we've been very fortunate enough to see that. So, man, kudos to you on that alignment too. It's simply amazing to hear that. As you talk about this as well, what do you think about the current market, and what's going on with Reddit and about Roblox and their IPO?
Yeah, so I bought into the Roblox IPO. I think they're yeah, congrats on that. I think they're going to be great for the long term, because they were already cash flow positive. So I mean, a couple of things for that one. Okay, look at their numbers. They're cash flow positive. Looks like great unit economics. And then I went to Twitter and I was like, and I asked a skeptical question, right? Just to elicit responses, because when you try to piss people off, like, they'll give you responses, right? So I was like, come on, guys, who actually plays Roblox, right? But like maybe 10 to 15 people responded. All my kids play. My kids play. I was like, oh, okay, this is the future, right? So I think they'll probably be around strong for the next 5, maybe 10 years or so. So that's good. And that's good enough for me to put an investment in, because I believe in the CEO's vision. And so there's just a lot of dynamics that go in there. And plus, like, you and I are gamers. So, why not support?
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. I like hearing that. Your vision is absolutely correct in my opinion as well, which is why I bought in as you did in the IPO. And, it's long term. It's always going to have client base for a while, right? So that's a great one. And what do you think about the whole Reddit thing right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think GameStop is more of I think a lot of people are buying into the mania around it. I think I've learned over the years that I'm not good at the short-term stuff. And whenever I try to go for short-term profits, I usually fail. So what's worked best for me is the long-term boring stuff, right? So when you look at like a Jeff Bezos, or again, like a Charlie Munger or Warren Buffett, they usually just buy and hold, and they defer profits, and they just keep reinvesting. So for me, I try to, one of Warren Buffett's rules, I think over the years, is he doesn't really go beyond, let's say, 15 or 20 stocks for the most part. Because he only really buys into the things that he understands. So I think a lot of people buying into GameStop, they're buying into the brand, and they're buying into the mania, and they're buying into the chance to, stick it to Wall Street, right? I actually don't think the majority of them understand what's going on. I for sure don't understand what's going on, so I stay away from that.
I love that. Don't be too trendy, right? Like you just said. A lot of people are afraid they buy into the hype and they get upset if it doesn't work because they don't understand the hype. But I think a lot of times that's your own responsibility. That's absolutely amazing. What are some current projects that you're working on right now that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm working on buying some other software businesses and agency type businesses. So I'm super excited about that. To me, I mean, it sounds really complex, but to me, it's just like it's you level up to be able to play this game, right? First you start out working somewhere, and then maybe you start like a side hustle, then you start a business, and they're like, oh, I can invest in these companies. Oh, maybe I can buy these companies too. So it's just, levels. And honestly, trust me, it's not that complex. And there's that. I love jumping around to help, the different companies that we have. So whenever, I'll meet with my leaders, and whenever they need help with something, I enjoy helping them solve puzzles. I love, I'm really focused on just creating content like this, promoting the book. That's part of it. And then other than that, it's just doing deals, which is what I just talked about. So that's what I'm focused on long term. But if you ask me like what I want to be doing the rest of my life, my overall mission is to level up the world, right? And I'll never, ever accomplish that in my life. And that's what a mission is. Like, you just wake up every day, you get a little closer to it. And then at some point you die, and then that's it. So
yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. You talk about the software investments. We have a lot of people that listen in the tech world. What particular are you looking for and ranges that you're looking for? So maybe, they can go straight to you and find out.
Yeah. So I'm looking to really, I'm writing angel checks right now. So anywhere from 25 to 150 grand. And I'm looking for, if it's a company that's at probably a sub $50 million valuation, that would be great. And I think really anything that that will catch my eye. Like, I'm really interested in, health optimization, like sleep optimization, that type of stuff, right? Like, you want to talk about crypto for the long term. Like, I'm interested in all of that. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, betting on the person. So for example, like, I just put in some money for this company called 8 Sleep, and I use their product, right? It's sleep analytics, and it actually like it cools the bed as well. And I'm like, this is freaking amazing. I think, they have a good shot of doing something really, really great. And I really like the founder too. So yeah, that's kind of the range that I'm looking at.
That's really, really cool. On the marketing side, you're really well known for that. You've done a lot in the marketing world. What is one mistake that people constantly make in marketing with their personal brands that you see?
Yeah, I think, it's funny how everything ties in like hand in hand. I talked about the long-term stuff earlier. I think a lot of stuff you see, people are talking about, oh, post to TikTok, the newest social media trend and all that. But then you realize, like, it's the long-term stuff that it takes a long time to build an audience. So what I found with the podcast, first year, I was only getting 9 downloads a day. Second year, only 30 downloads a day. But if I stopped at that point, like, I think my Asian parents would have been like, you're stupid. Look at this. You're a failure for 2 years, right? Probably slapped me in the face. But like, kept me going. It's like I kept going because I was learning a lot from doing, podcasts. And if I didn't continue on, we wouldn't be at the volume that we're at right now. And I think usually it takes about 2 to 3 years to build an audience. And it usually takes about 3 years to build a solid business. And I think what happens is most people, I would say, are a little too selfish, where they focus on their views too much instead of focusing on the long term, right? And that's what causes a lot of people to give up too early. So what I would say is, I think people give up too quickly, and they don't have a long-term view on things, because they aren't willing to go through the hard work. And that's what makes most people.
Wow, educating the audience, man, 100% straight fire. Love that, Eric. Love that. What is one piece of advice that, in general, as a business person, that people should do and not do, in your opinion?
Yeah. So I think in terms of I think try to be the idiot in the room. So I try to, I think it's having this apprentice mentality. So I have that in the book, but it's the whole idea is, how can you continue to learn, grow all the time? And then as you continue to accumulate more knowledge, hold the ego at bay. And if you're presented with new data, change your opinion, right? Be open to changing it. I think I'll tell you, my mom's really stubborn, right? Like, it doesn't matter what you say to her. She holds firm no matter what, right? But I think it's good to have, kind of firm, like strong views on things, but hold them very loosely. And I think if you're able to do that, then you open your mind up so much more. And I think the world opens up quite a bit. So I think that's what it is. It's having an open mind and then just continuing to learn. I think what doesn't work is the opposite of that, right? You start to develop an ego. Oh, look at my really nice car. Look at my big house and all that. It's actually a game that a lot of Asian people play. It's like, look at this, look at that. Look at my purse over here. Look at, like, it's like that status game is like, it's so stupid and it's so short term, right? So whatever you can do that's long term, you're going to be ahead of 99% of people, I think.
Yo, bro, if we're in the studio right now, I'd be giving you 2 high fives in a row. 2 high fives in a row. Absolutely, man. I mean, a lot of people don't realize this. So-and-so drives a 550, but I drive a 600. It just is so petty and insecure, and it really robs us of the one thing that we do lack, which is unity, right? Which is why we aren't, supporting Crazy Rich Asians the first 3 weeks where he came out, or picking out other authors' books, because they are of the same descent or race. And I don't think people realize that. There's such a separation amongst the different countries, much less in the regions. But then you have all this bad stuff happening to our elders, with the Asian hate stuff. And I'll be like you, man. I mean, I was so emotional one day. The first time I saw it, I mean, I literally had tears running down my eyes. And I was just so angry, And now this generation is doing the one thing that we were taught not to do, which was say something about it. Keep your mouth going. It's okay. You can be okay going from there. What are your thoughts about all this that's happening right now?
I think so we'll go through the levels again, right? I think right now, I mean, there's the people that are silent, and I think that there's the people that speak up. That's a level above that. And I think there's a level above that would be you're donating, you're taking some action. I think what I'd like to see more of. So yes, I've happily donated. It obviously sucks, but what's been difficult for me is seeing people talk about. I'll see some stuff on social media where people will talk about the Asian people will talk about, it'll be really aggressive rhetoric, right? And in some cases, people will talk about white supremacy and all that. So I think in some cases it might be going a little overboard, and I think we have to kind of be careful and be smart about what we say too, because I think we need to keep in mind there's only 20 million of us. I think around 20 million in the United States. So I think being smart, allying with the right people, allying with influential people, not being super aggressive about it, and then doing what we can, to donate, help these people, right? And bring more awareness to this stuff. I think we can bring more awareness without being aggressive, without causing people to come after us, right? I don't think we need more of that. I think we can play judo with this stuff, right? If people want to attack us, we can deflect it, right? And then, again, just be very tactical, or more so strategic than tactical.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of people, even when it's matters like this, like you talk about games, you can almost see how their reactions are, and eventually that's also almost the same reaction in the boardrooms, right? Because it's terrible stuff, it's angry stuff, it's stuff that hurts, And I remember I had this conversation with one of my other friends. I said, these are elderly people, and the worst part about it is everybody's attacking. Right. It's not one set race.
No.
Not one set industry. It's anybody, any age, any gender, any ethnicity, and they're attacking people that just really can't defend themselves. And I remember I had to explain. My parents are currently in Taiwan, so I had to explain to them not to come home. It was a hard explanation. It was hard to make them understand why, and hear the fear that exists. And I think that hurts a lot too. How do you deal with that currently, with and that process that's happening?
It's I mean it's scary, right? So the good thing is my parents are insulated in Arcadia, which is they're protected by a shield of Asian people, right? It won't happen to them there. So I think what we've done internally at let's say my ad agency as an example, right? We've told them, hey, like whatever you end up donating to like AAPI, like we'll match it, right? That I think that's like surface level. That's what we can do there. But what I'm trying to do, kind of behind the scenes, is try to organize more conversations, right? So on Clubhouse, getting a group of maybe Asian business owners and maybe investors together, talk about what we could do as a group where we have more influence and more power, right? I think just also reaching out to people. That are, donating to the GoFundMe's. I think that's great too. But also, like, what more can I do? Can I reach out to these people on Instagram, DM them, say, what else can I be doing to help? Right? I want to be doing this for a community too. So it's good to see that we're all kind of coming together like this now. But still, I think we're at the very beginning, and there's more work to be done.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it's there's so many levels to do it. As long as we start doing it the right way and the right path, it's definitely a lot more easier, right? Force is one thing, but I like your concept of you can attract more people with honey than you do vinegar. So yep. I absolutely think about that. As we start signing off, what would be one final amazing piece of advice you can give an individual right now in life?
Yeah, I think it's thinking in decades. So I think if you've noticed the theme of this one, it's all about long-term thinking. So I think, I used to put a lot of stress on myself because growing up, I felt like my dad would tell me I'm behind. So you remember that as a child. And so I don't want to be behind anymore. So I talk fast, I type fast, I do work fast, but then that's carried over into work now, where now I realize that as I'm getting older, I have this turtle in front of me. It's really telling me to constantly slow down. There's no need to kind of, rush everything. And also understand that when I look at the last decade or so, a lot of amazing things happen. So, short term, we can hustle, but just understand that the results that we're looking for, we're going to see some amazing things happen in the next 10 years.
Absolutely, my man. Thank you so much for being such an amazing guest. We're super excited about coming up. Oh, let me ask one other thing. Where can they get the book? That's actually extremely important.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So if they go to levelingup.com, so that's it was a whole game to get the domain. Just go to levelingup.com. You can learn more about it, or your favorite online retailer, but that's the easiest way.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time, Eric. We appreciate you guys. Once again, thanks for joining us for another edition of Panomics Podcast. We'll talk to you guys soon. Good night.